On today's episode, I have Abbie Fink, the Vice President and General Manager of HMA Public Relations, joining us for a podcast episode where we do a deep dive on the importance of public relations and why it's so important to building your personal and professional brand. Abbie, I wanted to thank you again for taking the time to join us for today's episode.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoy the opportunity to share a little bit about public relations and the things that I do. It's an incredible, incredible career, and I've been very lucky to have been doing it for, well, truthfully, since I was in 6th grade is actually when I started doing public relations. So it's always fun to talk about.
Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about what you do over at HMA?
I'd be happy to. So HMA Public Relations is a full service public relations and marketing communications firm. And basically, in the simplest of terms, we work with our clients to help them tell their stories to the people they need to tell it to. And over my 30 plus years of working in the industry, that was originally just working with newspapers and radio stations and television stations. And as we have grown and the communications access to communications has changed. Things like podcasts have entered into our mix, social media, all the different platforms that are available to us now. But the real bottom line still is good information needs to get out, and we help our clients figure out the best way and the best platform to do that. So really from small businesses, entrepreneurs, we do large corporations, nonprofit organizations. We do work with some of the government agencies as well, tribal communities, all have a need to communicate, and whether that's externally to potential customers or clients or internally with their donor base, their employees, we help them create programs that allow them to share their important messages.
So Abbie and I were first introduced when we featured them within our Resources for Growth publication. So if you do need her contact information, that would be a good spot to find it. But Abbie, would you mind just sharing it for those individuals that are interested in learning a little bit more? How can they get in contact with you?
Sure. Our website is hmapr.com. And on the website, you'll find a lot of information about our agency and the services that we offer. And we also have a blog that's shared on that website as well that has a wealth of knowledge about 10 years worth of content on there about different strategies and things. So hmapr.com. And you can also reach me via email at afink@hmapr.com.
Awesome. So I'm sure our listeners are wondering, Lindsay, why are we covering public relations? And I have just seen through my experience working in the marketing space how important it is to have those PR gurus working alongside of you or helping you think through best practices and strategies. And business and communication has drastically changed over the last couple of months due to COVID-19. So Abbie, I wanted to pick your brain. How has PR changed due to COVID? And what are you guys helping a lot of businesses with right now?
Sure. And I think it's a very interesting question. And in a lot of ways, nothing has changed. And then in so many others, everything has changed, right? So as I said before, our goal and responsibility to our clients is to help them get information out to the people that need to know about them and what they're doing. And in this time of uncertainty that we are in and where businesses have been asked to think differently about what they're doing and who they're trying to work with and get information across, public relations and communications has probably become top of the list of things that businesses now are paying attention to. And so what we're seeing is a real commitment to utilizing what's available. Now, whether they're hiring a public relations agency or whether they have internal staff, they're recognizing the importance of continuing to be in front of their businesses, their clients, their consumers and customers. We have so many choices now, and we're making different choices about how we're going about the things that we're doing. We're sitting in our living rooms, working from our desk in a corner of our space, but we still need to get groceries. We still need to do banking. We still have to get our kids to school in whatever format that's going to look like. And so while we're dealing with those kinds of things, our businesses need to be able to continue to operate. And so what we have been doing over the last handful of months is really reminding our clients about their core purpose, what it is that they exist to do, and then how are they doing that now, and how are we making sure that their current customer base knows that they're still doing that, and anyone new that might be coming into it for the first time. And that's really a universal message, whether we're talking about a for-profit corporation or some of our nonprofit clients. They are all recognizing the importance of staying top of mind and staying relevant, even if they're doing it a little bit differently. If their business model looks a little bit different, they still need to continue to, talk about what they're doing. And because of technology, we might not be able to sit across from each other in a studio and do this conversation, but we are sitting across from each other having this conversation. And so those that have been able to adopt and adjust to how technology can benefit their business, I think are the ones that are going to be successful and are going to continue to see opportunities for growth and expansion, and utilizing communications programs to, make sure people know that they're still in our community and still relevant.
A to Z BizLink traditionally works with a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, or leaders that have stepped into, new executive roles. So for those individuals that aren't overly familiar with marketing or public relations, would you mind just kind of talking them through how to get started with it?
Sure. And, the first step is really recognizing that it's an investment in your business or in yourself. You value your reputation, you value your brand, and it's time for others to see who you are and what you stand for. And so again, this is whether you choose to use an outside counsel like ourselves, or you bring in someone on your team. In order to be successful in working through a public relations strategy and implementing that strategy, you need to be as open and honest with your counselor as you possibly can, right? We are only as good as the information that we know about our different clients. And it's we would take you through a discovery process. We would talk to you about what are your goals? What are your business goals and expectations? What are your plans? Where do you want to be? How do you think public relations can help you? What do you know about us and what we do, and how do you think that could be beneficial to your organization? And with those kinds of goals in mind and information, we can then develop a campaign. So, a lot of times someone will come to us and say, I want to be on the front page of the newspaper. Well, we would all like to be on the front page of the newspaper, but is that the right spot for your information? Perhaps it's better told in a broadcast format. Perhaps it's told in a different section of the daily newspaper, or maybe it's a different newspaper. So by understanding the goals and expectations you have for your business, we can then develop a strategy and implement on that strategy. We want to make sure that the goals that we set for your public relations efforts mirror the goals that you've set for your company. If you tell me that you want to grow your business by 12% by this time next year, I need to make sure I'm doing things that allow you to do that, right? That I'm putting you in the right places to be able to tell that, implement on that, and then see that growth, right? And so there's opportunities across any campaign to reevaluate. Are we still on target? Are our messages that we developed on day one of the campaign still resonating in 60 days, 90 days, a year from now? And the ability to adapt and change and be flexible is so important to us when we're working with our clients. And really, as I said before, an understanding that this is an investment in your business, in the same way that you invest in the best laptop computer that you can get and the best technology. If you're willing to make that investment in your PR efforts, it will pay off. You will see that return because it's aligned with your business goals.
I was wondering if you'd be open to sharing some of your case studies or success stories that you've had, over the course of your career, and how you've really helped to excel businesses and leaders within the community.
Sure. There's a couple that come to mind, and I think where, for me personally, the ones that I find that are successful, and again, what we do is we strive for success all the time. I think the ones where it is a deep understanding of how important the work is that we're doing is really when we can see the impact that business has had as a result of the efforts that we're doing. So one that comes to mind most is some of the work we've done in the nonprofit community. And I think where, typically it might seem that a nonprofit organization, why are they investing in marketing and public relations? Shouldn't that money be spent towards programs and things? Well, yes, it should, but it is. Again, if we go back to that investment idea that we're making this investment happen. And so some of the work that we've done in the disability community, I think, is among some of those success stories where we have taken organizations that provide programs for individuals with disabilities, whether that was physical disabilities or intellectual disabilities, and not only raise the reputation of the organization in terms of the service that they're providing or the programs that they're offering, but really recognizing that an element of our community needs to be heard from, right? That there are every issue that our state faces impacts all of us, and therefore allowing the disability community to use their voice to make an impact at our legislature, at our education systems, and transportation and things like that are probably among some of our big successes. We do a lot of work with tribal communities, and we have helped them over the last 30 years as tribal governments here in Arizona have the gaming enterprise, which has allowed them to reinvest in their infrastructure of their tribal communities. And we have been alongside almost all of the tribes in the state as they have developed things like schools, hospitals, roads, programs that serve their community. And right now, we're talking about things like the census and making sure that the tribal members complete the census form and indicate that they are a member of a recognized tribe. Elections, get out to vote, register to vote, things like that. So really impactful community issues are, where our clients have been able to, really see some success as a result of making that commitment to doing public relations.
At this point in the conversation, I'd like to get your insight for those individuals that are fairly new to the PR space or are just entering the workforce. What has led to your success? What tips would you have for those individuals that ultimately could help them get to where you are today?
That are considering PR as a career?
Yeah.
I think a natural sense of curiosity, I think, is important. And, you've got to be willing to learn a lot about a lot of different things and be excited about that journey, right? So as I mentioned earlier, I think I can trace my roots in public relations back to 6th grade. The story is that my elementary school had taken away the graduation dance for us 6th graders. I didn't think that was fair just because some kids had acted up that the rest of us wouldn't get a dance. So I staged a picket in front of the elementary school, and a couple of the television stations came out and covered how this, school was, and we got our dance back. Now, I wouldn't have called it public relations back then. My mother just says I was a busybody and sticking my nose into everybody's business. But in a lot of ways, that was set me on a path to what I ended up doing for a career. An interest in writing, an interest in how to in communications in whatever form that comes from. And again, a sense of curiosity, right? I have had the opportunity to work alongside so many different types of organizations and with so many different individuals that come from such varying backgrounds. And to this day, I'm doing this work for 35 plus years, and I still learn something new every day and have an opportunity to do something that I didn't even know I knew how to do. And that's exciting. I mean, to me, there is no typical day in public relations. I mean, what's typical is I get up and come to the desk. After that, I can't explain what will happen during the day. And that to me is what drives my interest in this as a career. It is exciting. It is an incredible opportunity to be involved with so many different things, whether you work at an agency like ours that has multiple clients, or you choose to work in-house within an organization, something that you're passionate about, whether that's nonprofit or in a corporate environment, that you are getting the opportunity to really be part of change and be part of making the success of the organization that you're involved with, and can leave your desk at the end of your workday and say, I'm pretty proud of the stuff that we've done today, and I'm ready to do it again tomorrow. And if you can do that the majority of the time, this is a great career. It is. I have been, as I said, doing this professionally. I went to school at Arizona State University. I have my degree in journalism and public relations. I was very fortunate that I learned early on in my college career what I wanted to do, and pursued that, and have been doing it ever since. And it is a great career, and gives a lot of opportunities to interact with just so many different organizations and businesses.
On that same front, I'm curious, do you have any like tools, websites, organizations that you would recommend that individuals look into?
Really good question. And yes, there are, if you are, considering this as a, up and comer, and you're considering this for a career, or you are making a career change, the Public Relations Society of America is our national association that is made up of individuals like myself that do public relations as a profession. We're about 22,000 members strong across the nation. Here in the Phoenix area, our chapter has just about 300 members. It's at prsa.org. And it is really the association where you will learn and have opportunity for exposure to best practices and the knowledge of what public relations is. If your career takes you in a slightly different path, for instance, you may be doing more marketing than you are public relations, and the American Marketing Association, International Association of Business Communicators. If you have a particular interest in, say, healthcare or legal communications, they also have industry specific healthcare communicators, legal marketers, et cetera. A quick Google search can pretty much find you some resources. And I think what we're all experiencing now is how much is available to us. With a couple click-throughs on a website, you can find an awful lot of information. Smart communicators and individuals that want to, continue to pursue this as a career regularly stay up to date on what's happening. If you and I were having this conversation even a year ago, would we be talking about podcasting maybe not, right? It might not have been. So we have to not only understand it, and we have to do it so we know how, so that we can then help others learn how to do it. You're better at being a host on your podcast today than you were when you started, and because we learn things. And so those of us that do this for a career, or those that are considering to do it, again, goes back to that sense of curiosity. You want to continue to learn. You want to do as much as you can to understand the things that we're doing. When we first started doing social media for clients, we had to first do it for ourselves. What was this Facebook thing, and what was the Twitter, right? We didn't know what those things were. And now it's Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and Snapchat, and pick another dozen things. But we have to know how to do them. We have to understand them so that we can counsel our clients and advise them in whether or not it's a smart thing for them to be. So if you enjoy that learning, there's plenty of places to get that information.
Are there any books or blogs that are on your must-read list?
Well, I certainly think my blog, yes, at hmapr.com. There are a few. The books are probably a little, those would tend to be more textbook driven. I find that books that are about the industries that I'm involved in are sometimes equally, if not more so. The communications part, I feel like I know how to do. But how do I communicate if I am working with a client in the deaf community, right? So I learned ASL, or attempted to learn ASL. So I think if you sort of keep up on the things that are relevant to the industries that you're in, a couple of the blogs that I follow quite regularly, of course, the those that come from our industry, PRSA and such. I do regularly subscribe to one called Spin Sucks, which is done by my friend Ginny Dietrich out of Chicago. She has a variety of different contributing writers. So there's a lot of different resources there, not just her viewpoint on communications, but others that come in as well. I read regularly a blog by an international organization called PRGN. So that gives me some perspective on what's happening in communications around the world, which often informs what we do here. But you can find, again, by a couple click-throughs, usually on those sites, you can find links to some other resources. And again, if you choose a path that is taking you to a specific industry, healthcare, legal, whatever that might be, look for those sources that allow you to learn more about your industry in addition to what you're learning about from a communications perspective. And then I guess if I could one more, I think it's also important to make sure that you are involved in your local news community or the news coverage media outlets that cover your industries. So read your daily newspaper, listen to the talk radio station in your community, watch the local news, even if you don't do it in real time, watch it later. It's so important to know what's happening in your local community as you're developing campaigns. We are informed by the things that are happening around us nationally as well. If you're working on a more larger, bigger platform, if it takes you internationally, and read a variety of different resources. Get your news from different sources. Make informed choices because you've heard and seen different varying things. One of the questions I ask someone when they come apply for a job with us, I ask them, tell me the last or the anchor for one of our local newscasts. And I'm not upset if they don't know the answer, but it tells me a lot about, their investment in what we do. And you need to know what's happening in your community if you're going to be successful in this career. You don't want to plan a big event. If the president of the United States is coming to your community, you don't want to plan an event on the same day, right? So you need to know what's happening in your market. So in addition to the industry things, be sure you're paying attention to, the news side of things that cover your communities as well.
Abbie, as we look to wrap up today's conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to have shared with you, and I am a firm believer in investing in your reputation and in your business success, and how public relations and marketing can impact your business. Again, whether you use an agency like ours or you bring someone in internally to do that for you, the need to make sure that your audience knows who you are will be consistent no matter what business you're in, no matter what pandemic hits us, whatever other issues might impact us. To be successful means customers have to know who you are and where you are. And so when opportunities to participate and do things that raise your profile in the community, take full advantage of those and give it the benefit of the time and that investment, and you will see success in doing that. And that's whether you are starting off your business and you're by yourself, or you have grown and you are a larger organization. That's an investment that is critical, I believe, to the success of your business or your business goals.
Abbie, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.